I'm here at the Nordic Film Days in Lübeck, and with me is Hannes Þór Halldórsson, the director of Cop Secret, which is this year's opening film. First of all, for our viewers who are not able to be here and watch the film right now, can you tell me in your own words what it's about?
It's an action comedy, probably the first of its kind, coming from Iceland. And the core concept of the movie and the concept of the comedy of the movie is to take the typical 90s action movie, which you're used to seeing taking place in New York, Manhattan, or Miami or something, and you place it in the peaceful city of Reykjavík, and we try to make Reykjavík look as big an action movie as possible, and people speak in one-liners and people carry guns, which is not the case normally in Iceland. The police doesn't have guns, and obviously we don't have super villains or anything like that. So everybody's acting as if they're in a big Hollywood spectacle movie, but they are doing it in the peaceful city of Reykjavík.
Okay. You're not only a filmmaker, you've also been the goalkeeper for Iceland's national football team.
Mm-hmm.
And you've played abroad for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you manage to do both jobs? What's more important to you?
It came naturally to me to do both jobs. When I was 20 years old, I graduated from high school, and I had been, running the video club in my high school, doing a lot of short movies, and I was interested in filmmaking, and I started working as a filmmaker. And at that time, I was a football player in the lower leagues in Iceland, and I decided to go for, to try to see which one would take me, further, and I never expected it to be football, to be honest. I thought I was going to be working as a filmmaker, but then football surprised me a little bit, and I managed to work myself up to Iceland's biggest club, and we won some titles, and I was chosen for the national team, and at the same time we had this amazing national team, and I became the #1 goalkeeper, and we had this unbelievable fairy tale, this Icelandic football fairy tale. But during all that time, these 9 years that took me to that place, to the national team, I was always working as a filmmaker on the side, as a commercial director. So for 10 years I was working in the Icelandic film industry before I moved abroad and became a footballer for 6 years. And at that time I put the filmmaking career on the side, and I just focused on footballs for 6 years. But I've always had this intention to come back and to start working again as a filmmaker and move into feature films. So once I moved back to Iceland in 2019, we were able to pick it up, this idea of making this movie, and I managed to take the step, from being a commercial director into making a feature film, which I'm very happy about, and it was always my goal to make a feature film. I just didn't expect to do it while I was still a football player.
How did you come up with the story in the first place?
This actually started out as a trailer 10 years ago in a comedy show. Hörður, this guy, and Svetli, this guy, they are well-known comedians in Iceland, and they had this comedy show called Wurde and Sveppi, which are their names, and it's a Friday show. And they had this concept one evening to make a trailer. Each would make a trailer, and then they would have a competition, which one was better. Hörður called me, and we made a trailer about this very tough super cop who had problems in his personal life, and people thought it was funny, it looked good, and looked like a movie people would like to see. So we were asked to write that movie and make it, and we wrote, me and Hörður and Egill, we wrote the story or the outline for the movie in that year, 2011-12. So, and then we wrote the first draft, and that was it. After that we took a break because I went to play as a professional football player for 6 years, and we always had this first draft, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and I thought it wouldn't be made. But then when I came back, we started talking about it again, and me and Sverrir, who's this guy again, and a screenwriter named Nina, she came in, and the three of us worked on getting the script, to update the script and getting it to a place where you feel like it's a movie, where you have a story and you have characters and stuff like that. So it's been taking a while to get it to the place where it is now.
Your film is a parody of all these big budget action films.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you filmed it with a small budget, it still looks big. How did you manage that?
Thank you. I think it's a parody, but also a love letter to those movies because I love those movies. And we were taking ourselves, even though it's a comedy, I was also taking myself seriously in making an action movie. I wanted the movie to have all the features of an action movie, so it would both be exciting and look good. But the more, the bigger it is, the more, it's the comedy also, so it works on both levels. So I was trying to get it to look different to what you have seen in Icelandic movies before. And I was allowed to do it because it's a comedy. I had excuses to do whatever I wanted. But like you said, we didn't have, it's a very low budget movie. Even in the Icelandic standard, it's a low budget movie. And I did calculations. You could make 1,060 cop secrets for the budget of James Bond, for example. And it costs 0.3% of the latest Fast and the Furious movie. So we could not afford anything. We could not afford cars getting flipped, or we could not afford one real bomb, for example. We could not afford crashing anything, for example, in the mall or something. But what we could do, some things look the same, with one camera in daylight in Iceland as it does in LA, for example. You can have two people fighting in a car, garage with available light, and it looks the same, in our country and in Hollywood. So we tried to use the elements that looked, that we could use and make the most of them. We were creative with locations. We tried to choreograph the moves so that, they were good. I mean, Rúrik, for example, who here in Germany, did a fantastic job at his short sequence that he has by going for many weeks and just learning how to fight so that it would look natural when he eventually does it in the movie, and which is very important because we didn't have that many tools, but what we did had to be good. And then we had to use editing, sound, and music to elevate it. And I think we especially the music, I have to give compliments to the composer, because I asked him, and this is an example I took from some DVD behind the scenes clip I saw once from Back to the Future, where Robert Zemeckis, he asked his composer, he said, I have this big concept movie in my head, but if you analyze Back to the Future, it's not big at all. It takes place in a square and inside apartments, and there's no big shots. And even the final sequence is in the same square, and it has a few special effects, but it's not that big. But once you think about it, it feels very epic and it feels very big, and it's because of the score. The theme is so huge, and the movie feels very, very big because of it. And I took the same example to my composer, and I said, can you take this movie? This is a tiny, tiny movie. We want it to look like an action spectacle. Can you take it and make it look Hollywood, Nolan, Hans Zimmer-esque, And I think if you break down the scenes, it's just 2 or 3 guys, running around in a car garage, for example. But with the music, it feels like it's something coming out of a Christopher Nolan movie at times. So I think he really did a good job.
Indeed. You did.
Thank you.
One film that inspired you is obviously Die Hard 3, because you mentioned that film in your film.
Yeah.
What other films did you watch for inspiration?
Tango and Cash was an inspiration. There are some elements in the story that resembles the Tango and Cash. Bad Boys, you get the Bad Boys, Miami sign with a plane, which we copied just for the humor's sake, and the typical Michael Bay ring circle slow motion shot, which he has in almost all of his movies. The hero shot and things like that. But I think it's bits and pieces from a lot of action movies, and I didn't really watch that many movies in preparation. To be honest, I just think they are in my brain somewhere, and it's easy to access them. It feels familiar, and you know how these movies are structured, and you've seen it all before. But I was not trying to copy anything, and we were so restricted by a budget that it was also a matter of just doing what we could with the locations and the time that we had. So I tried to use the time I had to squeeze as much out of the things that, you know, as possible.
As you just said, it's been 10 years since you first had the idea. How does it feel to have the final film, finally?
Unbelievable, because there are so many things on the way that could have stopped it. Both once I moved away as a professional footballer, I thought it would stop. And then when we started talking about it, there were so many obstacles, and it was so difficult to do it during my football season in COVID, you know, relying on the Icelandic weather, hoping that nobody would get COVID infected, because we only had these specific slots to shoot the movie, because I had national team games around the slots, and it was a lot of moving puzzles that, you know, and everything had to come to place, and we were so lucky to have it, you know, work out the way it did. And now people are liking the movie, which is also a huge, nice surprise that it's traveling outside of Iceland, which we never expected. So I think it's just a little bit like my football career, where I never expected to, you know, to do what I did there. This is a little bit the same. This is, you know, going further than I ever hoped it would, you know. So it's really showing to be a success.
Your film was screened in Locarno and at the BFI London Film Festival, and now here at the Nordic Film Days in Lübeck. Did the audience react differently in these countries?
I would say it's similar in these three countries, but definitely different in Iceland than it does abroad. Because, and that's where the surprise comes from, that we wrote the movie only with Icelandic viewers in mind, and there are so many local jokes that you're not gonna recognize if you're not from Iceland. I mean, you have, for example, some people playing themselves. They have their own name, as you know. For example, the Prime Minister is a very well-known celebrity in Iceland who used to be a mayor of Reykjavík, and in this movie he has become the Prime Minister, and you will not know that, but this is a very, very famous guy in Iceland. And this is, you know, this is something you smile about once you know the situations, and also all these things about jurisdictions and the beef between these two towns, which is not like, it's just almost like another neighborhood next to Reykjavik. There's no jurisdiction. People don't carry guns. There are some jokes that you're not gonna get if you're not from Iceland. So things that Icelanders laugh from. Don't get the same reaction here, but here, and then there are some moments in, you know, abroad that don't get the same reaction in Iceland. So it's really nice to see that people are reacting to it differently.
In the last couple of years, there have been more and more TV series coming from Iceland. 2 out of the 7 TV series being shown here in Lübeck are from Iceland. And I think this might have been turned quite easily into a TV series. Have you ever thought about that?
Yes, we discussed it before when we were starting to restart the project, and then we spoke about it. Should it be a movie or a TV series? And it would have been easier to make a TV series because it's easier to fund. You know, you have the TV station which can put money into it, and if you are making a movie, you start from scratch. You need, you know, you're completely relying on, you know, some grants and stuff like that. But we just felt strongly that we want to make a movie. These guys, they have been in TV for a long time, and they have not made a movie like this, and I wanted to make a feature film, and it just felt like a movie. We felt that we wanted the poster, we wanted the trailer, we wanted the whole thing, and you know, the premiere and all that stuff, and we felt that this story was a movie. So this was what we wanted to do, even though the other thing would have been maybe a bit more practical. So we went for that, and we gambled on the movie, and I'm very happy that we did.
Oh, I'm glad too. You're playing a lot with the expectations of the audience, whether it's a role of gender politics or the use of a female football team instead of the male. How important was that to you?
Very, because number one, we had a male-heavy cast. You know, if you think about the 3 leads who were already stuck to the movie because of the old trailer. You know, you had the villain, who was always going to be a part of the movie, and you had the two main characters who are all male. So we felt that we needed to balance the or adjust the gender balance, and by doing so we wrote more female parts, and we wanted to have strong female actresses. Like, I mean, Steinunn Ólína does an amazing job, I think, as the tough police chief. I think she's really fantastic. And then if you talk about the decision of having the female national team playing, actually there was not a huge decision for us, because, I mean, in Iceland the female national team, they are a big thing. You know, they have been doing well for a long time, and the captain is a huge star. So for us to have them was a big privilege, but I think it still helps the movie. It helps, you know, sending some positive message. I think we are trying to send positive messages in this movie, even though it was always supposed to be a fun movie first and foremost. I think it's also important to try to, you know, make it leave something positive behind and maybe raise some important discussions. So deliberately we tried to make it, you know, so that it would have a positive impact.
The film is very ambitious and looks more like a Hollywood movie than an Icelandic film.
Thank you.
At least there are no sheeps in your film. I think it gives some sort of new touch to Icelandic films, which I really enjoyed. How important was it to you that it was based in Reykjavík?
I mean, that's the concept. It has to be based in Reykjavík, because that's the joke of that's the running joke of the movie, to have an action movie taking place in Reykjavík. But I agree with you. I think these Icelandic movies, with all respect to those kinds of movies, you know, the slow farm sheep movies, many of them are quality movies, but it's not my taste of movies, and I think many agree with me. You know, audiences in Iceland, they don't go and see these movies that much. So I think, you know, there was an opening for something like that. And when you talk about Icelandic cinema to people, you know, usually you get the reaction that people want more entertaining movies, and for Icelandic to make more genre films and stuff like that. So the problem is maybe not everything makes sense in this small city of Reykjavík. So you will not see a lot of action movies in Iceland. I think we used the opportunity to do it by having it as a comedy and using it, you know, taking this and to balance it in this way, to have it, you know, as an action movie but still a comedy. But still you can make more comedies, you can make more thrillers, you can make horror movies, stuff like that. And I think, and I hope that this movie is going to open up, you know, some doors for those kinds of movies to step in a little bit more.
I'm always impressed how many wonderful films are coming from such a small country. Mm-hmm. Because you just have a little residence as a small town in Germany. Mm-hmm. What is so special about the Icelandic film community?
There is a certain energy in this country, and like you said, we are always being compared to other small towns in big countries. You know, you have Coventry in England. I've been told a lot that we have the same population. There's a population in Germany. No, it's definitely a town with 350,000 people, and you get the comparison. You know, also when we were playing, you know, big nations in football, it was always this: how do you do it? You know. And I think there is something about the mentality. If you have a nation of 350,000 people or a town inside a country with millions, you know, as a nation, you just have to deal with it. You have to figure out ways how you're going to create a nation out of these few people. You need everything. You need banks, hospitals, TV stations, newspapers, sports. You need all that stuff, the same as the nations of millions have, and we just have to find ways how to do it and deal with it, but we don't have any help, you know. We just have to figure it out with this population. So that's probably also why some people do more than one thing, and you know, are not so afraid of taking on different challenges and stuff like that. So it creates this sort of creative energy, I think, and we are also proud. We want to be taken seriously as a big, as a nation, not as some island that nobody talks about. So Icelanders are ambitious also, and we try to make the most out of our situation. And yeah, that's so. But there's no, definite answer to that question. This is all just speculations, and I guess these are my best theories.
Okay, I think we have to come to an end, but what about the future? Is there anything you can already talk about? Any new project? Maybe a sequel?
There's nothing I can talk about. There's a few ideas that are being discussed, and a sequel is one of them. And I would love to do a sequel. I would also love to do something else. And I need to, this movie is opening, I think, more doors than I expected. So now I need to make the right choice on what to do next. So in the next couple of weeks, I will probably figure out what to do, and then we can have a discussion later. But now I'm not sure myself.
I'm really looking forward to everything that might be coming.
Thank you.
Because I really enjoyed this film. Good
Great.
luck with the film.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the interview.
My pleasure.
Okay, bye.
Bye. All right.
Yeah.